So this is Chad Thompson with Kenda 5 Hour Energy joining us on Cycling Illustrated. The first thing I wanted to ask you, Chad, is the rumor on the street is that Kenda 5 Hour Energy is merging with Competitive Cyclists, and if so, congrats. You know, but I have a question if you can confirm or deny that.
There will be a confirmation of what team we're merging with. Will be out hopefully tomorrow on Cycling News and Velo News. We are merging. Some rumors are true, some rumors are not. That's
okay.
I can say,
all right. I know that was a hard question.
We are merging. We're merging with a big team, and we will be a super team. There's no question.
Okay. My question to you, and the reason I ask you that, because on August 8th on your Twitter account you said you had big news was going to surface, so I thought, hey, why don't I break that news first right here on Cycling Illustrated? So you gave us...
You can go ahead and break it. The merger rumors are true. On the Rivet Management and Inferno are teaming up together to make a bigger, better team and make it impossible not to get invitations.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You are the first officially to know.
That's great. My question to you is, because I'm friends with a lot of these cyclists, as you know, and as you are, how about these 15 guys that are potentially going to lose their jobs?
Well, in our merger, I made it really simple. You know, there's 3 owners, not 2, so it's not a 50-50 deal. It's a 33, 33, 33 kind of thing. So I have a third of the say. But since I'm bringing across half the budget and Frankie Andreu and half the notoriety and half the UCI points, I wanted to bring half the riders. So I bring 8 riders.
Okay.
So that being said, that only leaves a few out there in the dust. But 3 have already gone elsewhere with our blessing. They didn't want to. They just got nervous. Some had other plans. One's going back to Europe right away. So 3 of my primary guys that have already found jobs elsewhere, even though they didn't want to go. But it was their choosing with our blessing.
Well,
that being said, I'm bringing 8 more across with me. The other guys either are retiring. Paul Mock's retiring. Nick Housley's retiring because he had a severe injury and found a tumor in his brain and cannot ride.
Wow.
So he's retiring. And the other 2 young guys are still up for discussion. So if all works out right and all the stars align, every single one of my guys will have either retired, found a job, or are coming back with us. So we will have a 0 job loss percentage from our merger on my end.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good information. I always ask about those guys, and now I'm going to ask a little bit of a tougher question because Kenda did sponsor the Amgen Tour of California. So why, in your opinion, did you get excluded from the Tour of California, the Pro Cycling Challenge, and the Amgen Tour of California?
Yeah, that's the question everybody wants to know. It's not tough for me to listen to the question and vent my frustration because I think it's ridiculous. But I don't have an answer because only they can have the answer. What I will tell you is as they've heard in Cycling News and Velo News and all that, I actually blame medalists. I don't blame the race organizers. I think they promised us we'd go, and then in the long run we didn't go. The race organizers should have ultimate say and should tell medalists who they're inviting regardless, but they didn't. So, I mean, the race organizers do have a hand in the blame, but ultimately it's medalists because they're responsible for inviting the team.
Right.
And Kenda signed a 2-year extension at $80,000 a year to sponsor California and are also opening negotiations had opened negotiations to sponsor Colorado as well, with the assurances their teams would be in. That means us and Jelly Belly.
Right.
Which you'll notice, we both got excluded from all 3 races. So
yeah, I don't quite get it. And Exergy, from what I understand, is, and I may be wrong, but from what I understand is that they're essentially bouncing checks and still getting into these races.
Right. I mean, I've read the press. I know the main man from Exergy, Remy. We have no ill will towards them getting in. They deserve to be in this year. Last year, no. This year, yes, they deserve it. They have a domestically a very good team. Our contention with Exergy or Bissell or Optum or that's the only 3 we have contention with. The Bot Tracker kid, they shouldn't be in there anyway. They're a development team. They're outstanding. They can perform to that level, no doubt about it. But they are a development team that has ties to Nissan no matter how much they try to cover that up or lie about it, the tie is there. And so we feel that's a little unfair they're going. But as far as the other three teams, if you want to compare apples to apples, we beat every one of those teams in every single stage race we entered.
Absolutely.
They never beat us a single time.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you.
You know? So,
that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you. And I also wanted to talk to you about something else, is what do you think the process for USA Cycling, for teams to get into the events to qualify, should there not be some kind of process where we could say to a small team, to a large team, do these things, pay this amount of money, and get in?
Right. Well, that's another point of contention we had in our article, but we also blame the UCI, USA Cycling. I mean, why in the world are we paying you these astronomical registration fees as a Continental team if we're not allowed in these races? Essentially, we paid $40,000 to be a UCI team with only racing Bat, Kill, and Gila. That's stupid. I would never pay $40,000 to race Gila and Bat and Kill. I can get invited to Bat and Kill and Gila as an amateur team. So why in the world did I spend this $40,000? I spent it to get into the three big races.
Well, why should a small level team spend the money to get into these races?
There?
Yeah, why should a small level team spend the money?
Well, we should, and that's why they don't make it public. Is technically by the UCI rules, they cannot charge us a penny. They're responsible for race registration, race food, and race housing when it's a 2.2 or above. And so they're responsible. So they technically cannot charge us at all.
Well, why are the small teams stuck with an outrageous bill anyway to get in?
Yet another question that begs answering. They call it sponsorship, quote unquote, activation. That is a synonym for extortion. And I'm very clear about this, and it makes many people very angry that I'm that open about it. But that's what it is. It's extortion. It's their way to squeeze money out of these teams that don't have it. And furthermore, it's not our responsibility. Are those races paying for my UCI fees? Are they paying my riders? Are they paying into my budget? No. Why? Because it's my team. It's my program. It's our team. It's not their responsibility. So you're a promoter of a race event that's making money. Why is it my responsibility then to put money into your budget?
Right.
I think that's ridiculous.
Now, I could see
the Pro Tour teams paying. The Pro Tour teams are getting $1 million to show up, and at least that's the rumor. And we're paying $100,000 to get in? What in the hell is that?
Right, and I could see, Chad, I could see if they said, okay, Kenda, okay, Optum, Cash Call, whoever you are, I could see if they said, okay, this is the fee to get in if you qualify on these levels. And it's all written down so that every team, small or large, can have a shot at their dream.
Right.
So I'm not sure.
We text that, too, in that article we wrote for Belarus, and I don't know. Pretty sure it's published, but we called for transparency with UCI, USA Cycling, and medalists. We said, stop telling us lies. And here's the four main lies they told us. The first 2 years, we didn't even bother trying to get in. We weren't good enough, yet Kenda still sponsored the event. They did that because we told them to, knowing that we would eventually become a strong enough team, which started last year with the hiring of Ben Day and Roman and the guys. And so last year we got in. Originally we weren't supposed to be in, but the man that was in charge of AEG's portion of the invite at that time forced their hand and invited us. But since that point, we've not gained a single invitation to medalist events ever since, and we've been told a few things. The first one we were told was our quality of roster, which makes me laugh. If you look at the quality of our roster this year, we're the strongest team in the U.S., period. We don't have one GC guy. We have 5. We don't have, one sprinter. We have 4, where every other team relies on their one guy that everybody supports. So our roster alone spoke for itself. So that was a lie. The next one was we have to spread race invitations. And we have all these in email. We have to spread out the race invitations. Okay, you invited the same 4 teams to every single one. That's not spreading it out. That is actually the polar opposite of spreading it out. So they made themselves look stupid with that. That was another lie. The next one was you need to sponsorship activate all the other teams do. Okay, well, we already have. Kenda sponsored the race. 5 Hour was willing to sponsor Utah. Utah made an agreement with them, and they were about to cut a check. They made their plane reservations and their hotel reservations, and I called them and said, hey, they snubbed us on the invite. So they voided the check, stopped the traveling, et cetera, et cetera. So they cut it out of there. They also agreed to sponsor Colorado. And he called me and said, I have a check on my desk. Are you guys going? And we said, no, we're not. So he tore up the check. So that's another lie. I have two major sponsors in Kenda and 5 Hour Energy that are willing to pay money into these events. And that doesn't even include my wine sponsor and other sponsors that are willing to activate product to help out the event.
Right.
So that was the lie. And then the last lie was performance. The team's general performance. Okay, well, we led the NRC. Then we didn't get invited, which pushed us down to 3rd in the NRC. Then we didn't get invited again. That pushed us down to 4th on the NRC. Yet you invite the top 5 teams and you brag about it, but you didn't invite the top 5. You invited 1, 2, 3, and 5 and skipped over 4. Even though we were originally number 1. I mean, do you see the mathematical problem there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you look at our race, schedule on our website and our results, 93% of our races result in a win. 93%. That's astronomical. 93% result in a win. Stage races were over 90%. We've only lost 2. And we lost Nature Valley strictly because of the mechanical. The group attacked John Murphy when he was in back getting a fight change. And that was that. And then, they said later on, we noticed Kenda wasn't in the group. Well, why do you think that was? Seeing as how we were in the main group every time and we initiated it.
Well, you guys are definitely have a powerful team, and that's no question. And it sounds like next year joining with competitive, you guys are going to be off the hook. So my question is, what happens when you guys are number 1 in the NRC and you're number 1 across the board, and you have Mansabo and Phil Gaiman and all these Chad Beyer and all these guys, and you still don't get invited?
Right. Well, actually, as far as the guys we know we're going to have, it'll be Mansabo and Beyer. Gaiman is left.
Oh, okay.
We'll have Mansabo, Beyer, Andy Jacquemet, Nate English, Bobby Sweeting, and there's 6 GC guys alone. And we have others. I mean, you got Max Jenkins and a couple other guys we talked to that are all major GC contenders with extreme time trial talent. I think Andy Jacquemet is probably our biggest hitter. I mean, he's entered 5 stage races this year, and he won 3 of them, and people lose sight of that.
Yeah, he's huge.
He won 3 of them, and he was on 2 UCI podiums, and he placed top 5 in every time trial he entered. Nate English is another one who not only won 2 NRC time trials, but was top 5 everywhere else, and guy has just been up and comer. But yes, it's going to be impossible to beat us. I mean, I said that this year at the beginning of the season, and people kind of took me a little more seriously, but still said that was a bold statement. But we proved that we were right.
Well, I have a question for you, Chad.
We won everything,
Chad, I got a question for you. You're paying this money to activate. Then the sponsor, you're paying the money to activate to become to get into these. But then the sponsor doesn't get into the race. How do they feel?
Kenda was extremely upset. Actually, the president of Kenda USA wrote a letter directly to AEG and said this is unacceptable. Why are you accepting my check? We were told that our teams are going in. They were told verbally, so they got shammed, essentially.
Okay.
There was really no direct response to it. They danced around the question. Excuse me. They were told, though, by AEG directly that they apologized for what had transpired, and they assured that we're in next year. So the rumor is, pardon me, that's John Murphy texting me. The rumor is next year we're into California. Obviously, competitive cyclists in backcountry have a huge tie to Tour of Utah. So we're assured into that race as well through our activation and through obviously deserving points. I cannot speak for the Tour of Colorado. I have no idea. And until we actually receive an invitation and are on the start line of those 2 races next year, I can't even assure that we are, but we're told we are through various sources. But I don't know. As far as how sponsors react, they're very upset. Competitive Cyclist was upset about losing out on 2 invitations to the point where I'm sure they wanted to consider other teams or other options. 5 Hour Energy, I lost a potentially much larger deal by not going to Utah. I lost a huge deal with the beer sponsor because of California. So sponsorships leave when they don't get invited.
Absolutely.
Whether they leave the event or the teams or the sport in general, they leave when you don't get the races that had TV coverage. I mean, that's it.
Right.
And medalists and these race organizers are single-handedly not only ruining 2 or 3 teams. I mean, there's rumors of all sorts of teams folding. They don't understand the vicious cycle. If you ruin these teams, fewer teams to compete. If there's fewer teams in the U.S. to compete, that's fewer U.S. riders getting a chance to race at the pro level. If there's fewer U.S. riders racing at the pro level, there's fewer pro teams that are going to recognize these athletes that are phenomenal because they're not getting the chance. If that transpires, they don't go to the pro tour. And if that transpires, no American wins the Tour de France ever again, and there goes your breadbasket.
Right.
So if you're taking out the top, the bottom rung of the ladder, no one's going to be able to climb it.
Right.
And they don't understand the cyclic nature and the cyclic destruction that they're causing within the domestic racing. It is absolutely asinine how it's being approached. And, and Exergy buying their way in and Bissell buying their way in, we're doing the same thing. We have sponsors sponsoring the event, not only to get us in, but because it's phenomenal exposure for that sponsor.
Yeah, it's big money.
But you shouldn't be allowed to buy into all three races when other sponsors are paying as well.
Absolutely.
If it was my choice, if I was the owner of Kenda, I would have sued them. I would have withdrawn my check and said, forget it, I'm not sponsoring you ever again. But they didn't do that. Kenda's a very upstanding company, and if they have a contract, they're going to honor it. And so they're staying with it, and knowing that we're supposed to be in next year, they're sticking to their guns and staying with the race. Even though they're dropping down to a co-sponsor of the team, they're still sticking with it because we're going to be their primary vehicle.
Right.
And they're still going to stick with Jelly Belly as well. So I can't speak for Jelly Belly, but I would assume that Kenda would have an even stronger gripe and more stronger defense in a legal situation if they're not to get their teams in for, what would be the sixth, seventh, and eighth consecutive event.
Yeah, well, I would say in a conclusion, we just need to make sure that USA Cycling writes down the criteria for teams and directors so they all know what the goals are of the sponsors, the teams, to get to these events. Because, what happens if you have a small mid-market team and they are they've developed their riders and all of a sudden they're leading the NRC, but they can't get in and show their stuff at the big races because there's no path. And I think that's something that needs to change, so that you guys all know what the path is to get to these big races and perform. But let's talk about 2013, because that's going to be a really positive year for you. And I'm looking forward to the merger now with the 5 Hour Energy, Kenda, and the competitive cyclist team. I think that you guys are going to just be incredibly overpowering for a lot of teams, and I think you're going to make a big splash in the Pro Tour Challenge and then the Tour, all the races that you didn't get in this year, quite frankly. You guys might win some stages.
Yeah, well, if you thought we as Inferno and Kenda, the Kenda team, you thought we were nearly unbeatable this year, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
Wait until next year, and we're going to destroy everyone on the NRC and NCC and UTI front. We'll be racing in South America, Spain, and America, and we aim at utter dominance. Our stage race team is Pro Tour quality as far as I'm concerned, or at least Pro Continental quality for competing for stage wins at major events. And the rest of our team is focusing around Isaac and another sprinter we just hired, and Sean Milne as well in the NCC, and also really putting our stamp on the criterium circuit as well. We had the lead for a long time this year until Isaac had his collarbone broken from a psycho path who we managed to get a lifetime ban on, but nonetheless we aim to go out and do all the racing. So you'll see us not only winning even more, which is hard to do at 93%, but you're going to see us winning even more, but not being satisfied with just that. We want to dominate, and we want to do that for our sponsors and for all the people that lost out with all of this year's unfortunate events. And hold on one second. Yeah. Okay. I'm picking up food for the fan while we interview.
No worries. Well, listen, Chad, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time, with us and talking with us, and I'll see you out there in 2013, and I'm really hoping for some positive results for your team because you have a really good group of guys.
We do. We have an amazing group of guys and a new management team that'll come out, on the team, yet to be seen, but everybody knows of already, will be even better because, family is a big thing with me, and it was big with them, and the merger makes sense. 2013 is going to be pretty much something you've never seen before, so we look forward to it.
Excellent. Thanks for talking to us on Cycling Illustrated.
No problem, man.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.